What a joy it's been to host the Convention on Founding Principles. As I said on night one, I have a long history with party conventions. I was there when George W. Bush was nominated and John McCain and Mitt Romney, and these events have always inspired me to dream bigger, work harder, and do my civic duty to leave our nation better off than we found it. Thank you all so much for joining us these last 4 nights. Some have asked, who is this convention for? And really, that's kind of a complicated question. It's a Republican convention, but it's not that convention. And I'll admit that sometimes this isn't that simple to explain because, while I considered myself a conservative for as long as I can remember, this is not a moment for partisan labels and tribal identities. This is America's moment. Americans are being tested. Each of us are challenged in this moment, in this critical election year, to show how much we care about the freedom and liberties that our founders gifted us with over 240 years ago. Do we really believe that all Americans are equal? These are the kinds of questions that we are being tested to ask. Is this a thing that we just say while we know it's really lip service? Some old words in some old aspirational document written by our founders who really just didn't have their feet on the ground? When they wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Did they really mean it? Maybe guess what? These words were just words. True, they left out women. Many of them were slave owners and they didn't necessarily consider Black men to be of equal worth. And, maybe because they were imperfect and their words didn't match their deeds, well, then we don't need to match our words and our claims to believe in equality with our deeds. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight that our founders' intent was right. Their words were true. We just cannot give up on them now. America is the only, let me say that again, America is the only multi-ethnic democracy in the world and in the history of civilization. No multi-ethnic democracy has ever succeeded. That is a daunting thought. But we're an imperfect country. It's important to recognize that. But we've been able to remain relatively peaceful and relatively stable and march ever forward, making progress on civil rights and equality because of our founders' words and our founding documents and ideals. The concept that every human being is equally valuable and that their right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is self-evident. The American experiment is a worthy one. In fact, it is everything, as we've been hearing throughout these 4 days. Our commitment to equality is not easy to keep. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But wouldn't it be something if we were responsible for making America that first successful, thriving, and lasting multi-ethnic democracy? The first to stay true to our commitment to value human dignity for all, and model a new way of being strong, diverse and strong with many different backgrounds and faiths and beliefs, but united in our love and commitment to liberty and a deeply held sense of duty and pride in these United States, not because of some false bravado, but because of our inherent and exemplary decency. I became a Republican as a young person, not because I was privileged, but because of a family history of struggle. My great-grandparents came to America to escape persecution, and I grew up with a single mom who worked incredibly hard to ensure I had the opportunity to be what I wanted to be. I recognize now, though, despite those struggles, there were so many others who face deeper barriers to opportunity. And something that I identified early on as a young Republican that really, really gnawed at me is that this was a party that talked a big game on standing for equal opportunity and was empathetic and said it was empathetic, and that its freedom-loving, God-embracing, family-centered, flag-waving party was equally open and appealing to people no matter who they are. And yet now this is a party that has taken a dark turn. It's one that appeals to white grievance, while Black men are treated with glaring, and women with glaring inhumanity as they're gunned down in the streets. Parties should not stand for color. All parties should be able to say that Black lives matter.
Good evening. I want to talk tonight about something.
And not feel the need to say that all lives matter. Because of course all lives matter. But all lives can't matter until Black lives matter, or women's lives, immigrants' lives, and the list goes on, or Americans who have unequal access to jobs, education, healthcare, and even the act of voting itself. You've tuned in over the last 4 days or caught us after the show online. I want to leave you with this one message. We hope you enjoyed the show, that it inspired you, that it gave you hope, most of all, that it fired you up to go out there, socially distanced and safely, and get to work. Lately in my house, my young sons, 8 and 6, have discovered Hamilton the musical, and they love to hum and belt out the songs "I'm Not Throwing Away My Shot" is heard throughout our house quite often. A truer, more American mantra has never been spoken. It's about the light in each of us, the power bestowed upon us to leave our mark in the world. It's about joining a movement to fight for freedom. Like the time of our founding, we are a nation experiencing great turbulence. The progress we have experienced technologically, industrially, culturally in the 21st century has not been without cost. And every 70 years or so since our founding, when the world has experienced rapid and accelerated change, there's unrest. And that unrest, too, has not been without cost. But here's the thing. We are the United States of America. In less than 2 centuries, we went from a powerless, dependent place to the world's greatest superpower and the envy of nations around the world. We are not giving that up. We are not throwing away our collective shot without a fight. And we're smarter now. I know that we are. We can fight with integrity, with ideas, decency, and truth. We can show strength through peace here at home, through service to others, and by putting the interests of our nation above any party, legacy, tribal identity, and even above ourselves. Right now, your nation needs you. Your nation cries out for you to put on your tennis shoes or sneakers, as my mom always called them, and volunteer. If you can do so in person, volunteer to be a poll worker. There's an extreme shortage due to the pandemic. You may not be knocking doors right now, but you can print your own materials and drop them off with personal notes to your neighbors. I'm sure your neighbors would really appreciate that right now. A lot of people feel very isolated. Send a letter to your family and friends and encourage them to do their civic duty and vote. This is your shot, and this is your America. Let's make it the best that it can be for all. Thank you.